Hey everybody, Nick here, and I'm here talking to you about a special game, well actually games that just came out recently called the Crash Bandicoot N.Sane Trilogy. And I'm sure you know what these games are, but if you don't, it is basically kind of like a redone version of the Crash Bandicoot games on the PlayStation 1. It's technically not like a remaster, and it's not anything new, but they are the same games, just with better graphics, and the controls are changed to a degree. We have Crash Bandicoot 1, Crash Bandicoot 2, Cortex Strikes Back, and Crash Bandicoot 3, Warped. So, I know it's really not called 3, but that's what it is. It's the third one. Back in the 90s, my family were more Nintendo. We owned 2 PlayStation 1s, but we never owned any of the Crash or Spyro or Metal Gear games, none of those. We had more Mario games and more obscure games like I don't know, kind of like just more obscure PlayStation 1 games. I'm drawing a blank right now, I can't think of any, but they were really like third-party games, let me just say that. So, I've never played any of the Crash Bandicoot games before. The only times I did were on demo discs back in the late 90s, if you remember what those are. But if you don't, these were levels, just like one level, on a disc with other video games, so you could play. So I played a Spyro level all the time, in Crash Bandicoot 3, I believe, with Coco and the Tiger. That level was on the demo disc and I played that a lot, but other than those two, the first level in that one, I didn't play anything else, and I didn't really play that very often. A friend of mine had it, and so I really didn't get to play it that much. So I was like, since I don't own them, I'm gonna own them. So I bought it, got my themes, got my avatars, I got digitally, and I played them. And I just recently beat the third one, so I've beaten all 3 now. So I figured now would be a great time for me to actually talk about them. So, I know you're like, alright, come on guy, let's talk. So alright, here we go. Crash Bandicoot 1. From what I've read online and what I played, when I played I was like, man, alright, it's pretty easy. Up until like 3rd, 4th level, and I'm like, geez, the difficulty just spiked. Like, I don't know what it was, and so I had to look it up. And I found out that they kind of changed Crash's jumping mechanics, or it's a little off due to something with his jumping, and a lot of people online are talking about that. So that's like a known issue among the community of people that bought it. So I'm glad it's not just me. But real quick, I do have to say Crash 1, personally, it is the hardest out the 3. Like, there's levels I had to just put the controller down and walk away and then come back later that night or the next day or something. Like, I wanted to rip out my hair, but I have pretty good hair, so I don't want to do that. But yeah, they had some hard levels, that's for sure. Crash Bandicoot 1. Yeah, I was so happy when I was done with it, because I heard, like I said, that was the hardest one, so that's why I'm like, I'm done. I did get 51% of the trophies though, without really going out of my way and doing anything, so that's nice. I believe Crash 1 actually had the most bosses. Yeah, they did. They had more bosses than 2 and 3. Not together, but they had the most in general. About Crash 1, I did like how every time you went to a new level, you saw the progression on the different islands. I really liked that, and when I booted up Crash 2, I was disappointed they didn't stick with that feature. It just reminded me of like the old school Donkey Kong Country, and since Crash is a platformer, it kind of fit in that way. But, yeah, this is from somebody that's never played a Crash game before. The bosses were fairly simple. You just had to basically just watch what they do and don't die, and watch their patterns. So, yeah, the boss I did have some trouble with was Embryo on the very first one. I'm actually looking at my trophy list now to remember, and Cortex was kinda difficult in this one compared to the other ones. But yeah, like I said, I got 51% of the trophies. I'm not gonna go back and 100% this game, or any of the other games, that's for sure. I'm not a patient guy like that. So, that's what I have for Crash 1. If I remember anything, I'll just talk about it as I'm going on. But, so Crash 2, when I booted it up, I was like, alright, this is cool. I don't really like how they did the levels, where there's like, 5 levels and then the boss, and it's kind of like one room, and then there's like 6 doorways to the other ones, and then there's an elevator in the middle to go up and down. I didn't like that at all, and the plot was kind of dumb, I think. Cortex wanted crystals, and he asked Crash to do it, and Crash was like, okay, sure, and he's kind of dumb. So that's why I was like, this doesn't make sense. But I did think that Cortex and Crash were going to team up together and fight Engine, because it seemed like Engine was kind of taking over everything, but I was wrong. Cortex on here, which was the space battle, that was actually pretty fun and easy. I didn't really care for the space missions, so by then I was actually pretty good at it. Tiny Tiger he wasn't that hard. I think Engine was probably the hardest, just because you had to keep jumping from platform to platform, but these bosses weren't that hard. Yeah, a difference between Crash 1, 2, and 3 that I noticed as a first-time player is that on Crash 1, in order to get to the bonus levels, you had to collect these tokens of Crash's girlfriend, or fiance, or Crash's love interest. And that's how you got to, what's her name's Tawna, by the way, but that's how you got to the bonus levels. In Crash 2 and 3, on each level, there would be a question mark, and you just jump on that, and then there you go to the bonus level. I like that a lot better. In Crash 1, I didn't like that. I may miss boxes sometimes, so that's why I didn't like that, but, maybe I'm just lazy, I don't know. But, yeah, and, Crash 2 actually introduced, what's his name? Polar, the polar bear. And I think it was, like, after beating Crash 1, then beating Crash 2, Crash 2 was so much easier than Crash 1 by far. And, I enjoyed it a lot better. Crash 1 is good, but the jumping and just something about it feels off. Crash 2, after I got used to it, I was like, alright, I got better with the controls, and there's also sliding too, and crouching with circle. So that was always a nice thing to get used to. New feature in that, I suppose. And, I'm trying to think of anything else in Crash 2. I did like it. It just seemed like it was short. I don't know why. It had, I think, one less boss, but it just seemed shorter, I suppose. Getting lives were a lot easier in Crash 2, that's for sure. At least that's for me. I mean, you let me know if Crash 1's easier getting lives. I think Crash 2 is the easiest. But yeah. Move on to Crash Bandicoot 3 Warped. They had same amount of bosses as Crash 2. 3, they introduced a lot, like the motorcycle levels, the plane levels, the jet ski levels, the levels where you were on the tiger, Coco's tiger, and then Polar, I believe, was in the third one. It just made the game feel not like Crash to me. Like, it felt like that these were easy levels. Like, okay, here's just a easy level, you know. The bosses were kind of about the same. Like, they weren't that difficult, really. One of my favorite bosses in Crash Bandicoot 3 was Engine, actually. He was like this big old mech, and you had to basically fight him, which is pretty cool. So since I'm talking about Crash Bandicoot 3, Cortex from 1, 2, and 3, 2 was the easiest by far. 1 was kind of hard, kind of easy, you just had to figure out his pattern, and 3 was a lot harder. I'm not going to say it was really difficult, but it was a lot harder in the sense that you had Aku Aku and Uka Uka in the middle doing their thing, attacking each other, while you had to dodge Cortex's things that he would throw at you. So, in my opinion, that was a lot more difficult. So, 2 being the easiest, and I would say like 3 and 1 are about the same. If not, 3's a little bit easier, just because of the controls and the mechanics and what you have. In Crash 2 and 3, at the end of 2, you actually unlocked a power-up, which is that you run if you hold R2, so you could run faster. I kind of like that, but I wish 2 incorporated that more. So in Crash Bandicoot 3, every time you defeated a boss, you got a power-up, which I kind of wish you got the power-ups earlier, just because, I mean, they're pretty cool. Like, the square to spin, you could kind of spin longer and hover. You had the rocket launcher that would fire a Wampa fruit. You could do a double jump. If you press circle when you jumped, I think you would do whenever you would fall, I think that would do some damage. I'm not really sure. But yeah, 3 had the power-ups, which was pretty fun. It brought a new perspective to the game, but I didn't really like the levels that you weren't typical Crash. Yeah, it was fun and all, but it just seemed like on every 5 levels you had a jet ski one, a plane one, or a motorcycle one, which I did not care for the motorcycle ones at all. It took me so many tries, but I finally beat it. And the motorcycle ones were definitely the hardest out of all the vehicles. I wish they could change that somehow, but they probably won't, which is unfortunate. But yeah, there's one thing I didn't really like in the second one. They introduced Nitro, and they didn't really they didn't say what Nitro was, so you had to figure that out on your own. So obviously Nitro is a bad thing, just saying if you don't know. And 2 and 3 had Nitro. 1 obviously didn't. It didn't need it, I suppose, but yeah, it was interesting though. Different levels. 3, I kind of didn't really like 3 level setup either. It was kind of like 2, where you would be in one area and you'd have to walk down this walkway, and then there would be the 5 levels, and you'd step on them, kind of like a game show. Then the level would pop up, and then you could go to that level, and then after that, you defeat the boss there. And that's how they had it. I I still like 1's level system better, but that's just me. Not the levels, but how it looks, I guess you could say. But yeah, honestly, I wish I would have played Crash back in the late 90s when I had the chance to, but I didn't. I don't know if I will 100% any of these. I'll try and get some miscellaneous trophies, maybe. Like the 99 lives, or like some other miscellaneous ones that Crash Bandicoot has, all 3 of them. But yeah, I really enjoyed it for $40. Like I said, you get the themes, you get a couple themes, you get a couple avatars, and you get all 3 games. And if you're a Crash fan, it's worth it. If you're not a Crash fan, or new to it like I am, and you've heard great things about Crash, $40 isn't that much for 3 full-fledged games. You know? I enjoyed it. First one, it's gonna kick you in the pants. Second and third, second will be nice, and third will be a mixture of the 2. On PlayStation, I have 9 friends that have this game, the Crash Bandicoot N.Sane Trilogy, and that should tell you something. They all come from different walks of life. They all are different people, obviously, and they all are different backgrounds and ethnicities and men and women. So Crash kind of is for everybody, I guess you could say. So yeah, if I would have to rate Crash on a scale 1 to 5, I'd probably give it like a 4.5 out of 5. And the reason that is because they changed some things, which I've read online, like the jumping mechanics in Crash 1, which I believe are the same ones that Crash 3, they took that. Let's see here. Maybe it's just me personally, but I didn't really like the Tawna. She was in the first one, and they didn't mention her in 2 or 3. I was like, okay. I kind of wish I had more of a story rather than just like cutscenes. I know that's how games were back then, but I kind of wish it just had more of a story, I guess you could say. I'm glad that they didn't introduce any multiplayer, because like Uncharted introduced multiplayer and I didn't like that at all. But yeah, it's a great trilogy. Just it can be frustrating at times, and that's a good thing, because nowadays these games just feel so easy, and platformers were not that easy back then. But yeah, Crash Bandicoot N.Sane Trilogy. If you don't own it, go pick it up. It's on digital or physical, whatever you want. But yeah, it's a great game. That has a lot of replayability if you're in that 100% or want to collect all the gems or what have you, whatever it has. Whatever floats your boat, basically. But yeah, it's a wonderful trilogy, and yeah, I would definitely recommend it to a friend, or let a friend play it. But until next game review, I'll see you guys later, and let me know what you think of Crash Bandicoot. Do you like the trilogy? What do you think about it? Do you think Vicarious Visions did a good reiteration of the N.Sane Trilogy, or do you think they kind of messed it up? Let me know, and I will talk to you guys later. And thank you, and happy gaming.